Hello everyone, and welcome to my CBS Wonderful Today channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Audra UNMASKS Claire. Her true identity leaves Genoa City in total shock. Genoa City had seen its fair share of dishiness, backstabbings, and shocking reveals, but nothing, relatively set its residers for the storm that erupted the moment Audra Charles decided to stop playing nice. It began still, as the most dangerous exposures frequently do, with a moping dubitation. Audra couldn't shake. Claire Grace, the soft-spoken, precisely composed woman who had ever bedded herself into the Newman route, didn't add up. Her stories were too polished, her feelings too measured, and her timing, always impeccable. To utmost of Genoa City, Claire appeared inoffensive, indeed sympathetic. To Audra, she was a walking red flag wrapped in a precisely curated smile. Audra had no way trusted concurrence. Times in the commercial fosses had tutored her that people didn't just stumble into power, influence, or propinquity to the Newmans without intention. And Claire's appearance? Impeccably timed with a series of quiet dislocations within Newman Enterprises and the Newman family itself. Victor brushed it off, as he brushed off most effects that didn't incontinently hang his conglomerate. Victoria, detracted by her own particular battles and moping guilt over once miscalculations, slightly noticed the inconsistencies. Nikki tasted commodity was out but couldn't relatively put her cutlet on it. Only Audra watched, heeded, and awaited. The first crack appeared during a normal autumn at society. Claire mentioned a nonage memory, an unstudied comment about a lakeside cabin, a storm, and a woman crying behind a locked door. Audra sat. It was a story she'd heard before. Not from Claire, but from a sealed deposit buried deep in Newman legal libraries, one connected to a reproach Victor had paid dearly to abolish decades ago. Audra said nothing in the moment. She smiled, jounced, and filed the detail down. But that night, she went digging. What Audra set up didn't just unhinge her, it stupefied her. Old medical records, redacted birth instruments, a falsified relinquishment trail that dodged through 3 countries and 2 countries, and one name that kept surfacing under different aliases, always just out of reach. Claire. Or rather, the woman now calling herself Claire. Her real name had been dropped so completely it was nearly emotional. Nearly. Audra honored the work of someone with deep pockets and deeper secrets. Someone like Victor Newman. Still, Audra didn't rush. She knew better. Exposing a secret this big needed perfection, timing, and an followership that couldn't be controlled. Genoa City thrived on spectacle, and if she was going to unmask Claire, she'd do it in a way no bone could undo. The occasion arrived at Nikki Newman's charity fete, an elegant affair filled with champagne, rumored alliances, and precisely hidden shanks. The guest list read like a who's who of Genoa City power players: Victor, Nikki, Victoria, Nick, Sharon, Jack, Diane, Phyllis, and of course, Claire, standing near to Victoria, looking every bit the pious confidant. Audra arrived late, dressed perfectly, carrying further than just confidence. She carried evidence. As the evening unfolded, pressure coddled beneath the face. Claire tasted it first. Audra's aspect. Dallied too long, her smile too sharp. When their eyes met across the room, commodity implied passed between them, a silent acknowledgement that the game was about to change. Claire excused herself to the bathroom, hands pulsing just slightly as she splashed water on her face. She told herself Audra had nothing. She had to believe that. Victor had promised her safety, protection, a future. But pledges in Genoa City had a way of unraveling under bright lights. The unmasking began subtly. During her speech, Audra complimented Nikki on her adaptability, her strength, and her capability to survive the worst storms life could throw at her. The words sounded kind, but there was an edge beneath them. Also Audra shifted, speaking about verity, about how secrets, indeed those buried with the stylish intentions, had a way of resurfacing. The room grew quiet. Victor's jaw tensed. Victoria lowered, seeing the shift in tone. Audra turned toward Claire. What if, Audra said calmly, someone in this room isn't who they claim to be? Gasps gurgled through the crowd. Claire's breath caught. Victoria artificially stepped near to her, defensive, confused. Victor rose slightly from his president, his voice sharp as sword. "That's enough, Audra." But Audra was done being bullied. She produced the documents, projected onto the large screen behind her. Birth records, DNA labels, photos faded with age but unmistakable in their resemblance. The name flashed across the screen, and Nikki's face drained of color. Victoria staggered back as if struck. Nick rumored, "No, that's not possible." Claire wasn't just an pretender. She was the child everyone believed had failed. The child taken, hidden, cancelled to cover a heritage and silence a reproach that would have destroyed the Newman name decades before. Claire was the living evidence of Victor's darkest decision. A son, a bastard, a blood tie that rewrote the family tree in ways no bone had prepared for. Her presence in Genoa City hadn't been accidental. It had been orchestrated by Victor. Or so it sounded. Claire broke down, gashes streaming as the room erupted into chaos. "I didn't want it to come out like this," she cried. "I just wanted to know where I came from. I wanted a family." Victoria's world shattered in real time. Memories clicked into place. Why Claire had felt familiar. Why her presence stirred commodity deep and unsettling. Nikki collapsed into a president, bruiting justifications she didn't know how to finish. Victor stood silent, his fabulous countenance eventually cracking under the weight of exposure. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Genoa City turned on Claire overnight. Sympathy warred with outrage. Some saw her as a victim, others as a manipulator who had sneaked the most important family in city under false pretenses. Victoria plodded the most, torn between treason and an inexplainable pull toward the woman whose blood imaged her own history. Nick demanded answers. Sharon advised that the emotional damage could be unrecoverable. Jack watched from the sidelines, knowing this disclosure would shift the balance of power ever. And Audra? She watched it all with measured satisfaction. She hadn't just exposed Claire, she had exposed Victor Newman. The untouchable primogenitor was eventually vulnerable, his once dragging him into the harsh light of verity. But indeed Audra knew this wasn't the end. Secrets this big league didn't simply explode, they echoed. As Claire faded into the night, her future uncertain, one thing was clear: Genoa City would no way be the same. Alliances would deteriorate. Commitment would be tested. And the question hanging everyone wasn't just who's Claire, but what other facades are still buried, staying to be exhumed. Because in Genoa City, the verity always comes out. The following morning in Genoa City, the foresharks of Audra's disclosure were palpable, moping like a heavy fog over every corner of the city. The fate's gaudiness and glamour had dissolved, replaced by whispers, sideways ganders, and phone calls that crepitated with pressure. Victoria paced the living room of her apartment, her hands pulsing as she replayed every moment of the unmasking over and over. Claire's disclosure wasn't just a stunner, it was an earthquake shaking the foundation of everything she allowed. She knew about family, fidelity, and herself. How could I've been so eyeless? Victoria muttered to herself, collapsing into the velvet lounge. Her eyes, red-rimmed from wakefulness, danced to the framed photos on the wall, images of herself, her parents, and her siblings, now acting nearly like a cruel joke in light of Claire's true identity. Each smiling face sounded to conceal a retired docket, a secret precisely buried, staying for someone like Audra to dig it up. And dig it up she did. Meanwhile, across city, Victor Newman sat at his office, gaping at the mound of documents Audra had revealed, a admixture of rage, unbelief, and bitter pride burning in his eyes. His conglomerate, strictly erected and defended for decades, had no way faced a trouble like this, not from JT, not from Kane, not indeed from Catherine Chancellor's heritage. This was different. This was particular. Claire, a life cancelled and hidden, was living evidence that indeed Victor's power had limits. Victor's mind contended as he telephoned a number on his phone, the line connecting with a familiar voice nearly incontinently. "Victor? Everything okay?" It was Nikki, but there was an edge of fear in her tone that betrayed her anxiety. "No," Victor admitted, his voice low, dangerous. "Everything isn't okay. Audra has gone too far this time. Claire, our Claire is not who we allowed. She was." And the whole megacity knows it now. Victor, Nikki did it. What are we going to do? Victor's hand tensed around the phone. We handle it like we always have. Control the narrative. Cover the family. And remind Genoa City why crossing Victor Newman is a mistake they'll no way repeat. But indeed, as he spoke, Victor knew commodity unsettling control was slipping. Sluggishly, gradually, the Verity had begun to take on a life of its own, and Claire, vulnerable, alarmed, yet stronger than anyone realized, was at the center of it. At Society, Claire sat alone, replaying Audra's allegations in her mind. Her hands shook as she scrolled through her phone, dispatches of concern, shock, and indeed treason flooding in from musketeers and familiarity. Some offered sympathy, others still receded themselves, doubtful if they could trust her now that her true identity had been exposed. Indeed, Victoria, her closest supporter, had spent the night in fermentation, torn between domestic fidelity and the shock of Claire's disclosure. I just wanted to belong, Claire rumored, her voice cracking. Gashes ran down her cheeks as she pressed a hand to her casket. Why does knowing who I'm have to hurt so important? Her solitariness was intruded by the sharp click of heels approaching, and Audra appeared, perfectly dressed, her expression undecipherable. Claire's first instinct was to bolt, but Audra held up a hand. "Don't run, Claire," Audra said vocally. However, there was sword beneath the gentleness. "I didn't do this to hurt you tete-a-tete. I did it to reveal the Verity. Genoa City deserves to know who you are, and more importantly, you earn to know who you are." Claire's brow furrowed. "You suppose exposing me will fix anything? Everyone hates me now. Indeed, Victoria, she doesn't know if she can trust me." Audra leaned against the counter, her aspect unwavering. "Trust has to be rebuilt. But hiding from the Verity will only make it worse. Right now, the question isn't whether they trust you, it's whether you trust yourself." Back at Newman Enterprises, the boardroom had come a battleground. Victoria, Nick, and Jack had convened in secret, hopeless to figure out how to navigate the fallout. Jack, always the strategist, spoke first. "We need to control the narrative, limit the damage, and most importantly cover the family's character." Victoria shook her head, frustrated. "Cover the character? Jack, this isn't a press release. This is Claire's life. Our lives. Everything we allowed. We knew about the family is wrong." Nick leaned forward, his eyes hard. "We've all got secrets, Victoria. But this is different. Claire being alive, being then, changes the entire family dynamic. Victor won't handle this still, and we need a plan before he reacts in a way that makes effects worse." Jack rubbed his chin courteously. "Victor Newman reacts best when he believes he's in control. We need to give him that vision while actually making opinions that help father chaos." Victoria moaned. "I don't watch about visions right now. I watch about Verity. And about Claire." Meanwhile, Claire made her way to the Newman manse, determined to defy Victor directly. She set up him in his private study, reviewing documents with his usual intensity. He looked up as she entered, his expression undecipherable but incontrovertibly tense. "Claire," he said sluggishly, "I wasn't awaiting you." "I didn't come then to surprise you, Victor," Claire replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "I came then to ask why? Why was my life hidden from me? Why was I cancelled?" Victor's eyes softened shortly, the first crack in his armor. "I did what I allowed. Was stylish at the time," he admitted, nearly too still. "It wasn't perfect, but it was necessary to cover the family." "Cover the family?" Claire's voice rose, incredulous. "By erasing me? By lying to everyone I watch about? You suppose this is protection?" Victor leaned back, the weight of guilt pressing down on him. "I did what I had to. I wanted to give you a chance at a normal life, free from the chaos of Newman Enterprises. I allowed. I was saving you." Claire's gashes hovered to fall again. "Saving me? You call this saving me? My whole life has been a taradiddle. Everyone I trusted, everything I believed was a story someone wrote for me." Victor rose, stepping near. "I didn't lie to hurt you, Claire. I prevaricated to keep you safe." Claire's eyes narrowed. "Safe deposit box? Safe deposit box would have been telling me the verity. Safe deposit box would have been letting me make my own choices. Victor soughed, a rare moment of vulnerability crossing his features. I know. And I see I ain't take back the history. But I can try to make effects right if you'll let me. Claire dithered, the pressure between wrathfulness and craving tearing her piecemeal. Could she forgive the man who had mandated her life from the murk? Could she accept the protection he allowed? He'd offered, indeed as it had caused so important pain? Before she could answer, the door burst open, Victoria and Nick entered, followed by Audra, each carrying their own storm of feelings. Victoria was the first to speak, her voice pulsing. Claire, we need to talk. All of us. There's too much at stake to handle this alone. Audra jounced. I agree. Secrets do'n't just vanish. They mold. And if we do'n't defy this now, Genoa City will tear itself piecemeal before it indeed has a chance to heal. Nick's tone was firm, nearly commanding. We need honesty. Complete honesty. No more facades, no further cover-ups. From anyone. Including Victor. Victor's jaw tensed, but he jounced. Fine. No more secrets. And with that, the Newman family and everyone tied to Claire's disclosure began the meticulous process of defying decades of deception, pain, and fractured connections. The days that followed were a whirlwind. News of Claire's true identity spread like campfire through Genoa City, kindling gossip, curiosity, and enterprise. Social media exploded with hashtags, news outlets called for interviews, and the townspeople batted endlessly. Was Claire a victim, a manipulator, or simply a misplaced soul trying to find her place? At the same time, Claire faced the delicate task of reconnecting with people who were contemporaneously her family and non-natives. Victoria plotted with covetousness, treason, and an unanticipated defensive instinct. Nick scuffled with his part as a family-in-law and moral compass. Jack maneuvered to stabilize Newman Enterprises while juggling particular fermentation. And Victor grappled with the consummation that the conglomerate he'd erected couldn't shield him from the consequences of his once opinions. Amid all this chaos, Audra remained the quiet mastermind of disclosure, observing the fallout with an admixture of satisfaction and caution. She had exposed the verity, but she also understood that disclosure was only the morning. Healing, trust, and conciliation would take time, and in Genoa City, time was a luxury many could go. Meanwhile, Claire, though shaken, began to reclaim her life. She sought comforting, reached out to old musketeers, and indeed tentatively began forging a relationship with her newfound family. Each step was fraught with pressure and emotion, but she moved forward with courage, determined not to let the secrets of the once define her future. In the end, Audra's unmasking of Claire had done further than reveal a retired identity. It had forced every character in Genoa City to defy uncomfortable trueness about themselves, their commitment, and the fragility of trust. And while the megacity would no way be the same, there was a spark of stopgap, a chance that, from the ashes of deception, commodity genuine could crop. Because in Genoa City, as in life, the verity may be painful, but it's always the first step toward redemption. The days following the fate were a tense cotillion of fragile civility and implied allegations. Claire tried to navigate her newfound reality, but every regard, every rumored discussion, reminded her that nothing would ever be normal again. Indeed, Victoria, torn between fidelity and treason, plotted to mask the storm inside her. Victor, meanwhile, was back in the office, pacing like a boxed captain. His conglomerate had survived commercial battles, hostile appropriations, and public dishonest, but this disclosure cut deeper than any fiscal loss. His own family, the people he'd trusted most, had been blindsided. And Claire, who he'd allowed. He defended, was now unchangeable force in the heart of Newman Enterprises. Audra, ever watchful, covered the ripple goods with careful perfection. Every move Claire made, every reluctant attempt to reconnect with the Newmans, was her implicit influence point. She didn't bewail, she simply observed, knowing that in Genoa City, information was power, and chaos was currency. By midweek, whispers turned to battle. Sharon possessed Claire at Crimson Lights, her voice soft but pertinacious. You have to be careful, she advised. People then they're spooked, and spooked people do dangerous effects. Claire jounced, her hands pulsing slightly. "I know," she admitted. "But I can't hide presently. I've to face them, all of them. Indeed, if it means facing wrathfulness, treason indeed." Victor himself. And Victor, standing in his office as night fell over Genoa city, eventually allowed himself a long, heavy shriek. The verity had erupted, and the megacity was in chaos, but beneath his fury, a grudging respect for Claire began to form. She had survived times of secrets, manipulations, and erasure, and now she stood, unbroken, demanding recognition. In Genoa city, one thing was certain: the storm Audra had unleashed was far from over. And everyone, from the Newmans to their closest abettors, would soon discover that some trueness, formerly revealed, could no way be contained.